Today I'm going to talk about self-driving cars. And one of the reasons I'm talking about this technology is because I love technology. I love talking to people about how the future looks like to us and how it is going to change our lives and make it easy for our lives. There has been many investments in autonomous technologies these days, and one of it is autonomous cars. Companies like Google, Volvo, Uber, BMW, Mercedes, all of them are investing a lot of money in making autonomous cars, and as well as companies like Google and Uber, who are quite software companies, but they are investing them time to make autonomous cars as well, to make autonomous car softwares. So there is something which is driving this autonomous cars technology, and let's talk about that today. You must be thinking I'm a software developer and why I'm talking about autonomous cars, which is just out of the box topic for me. But the reason I'm talking about it is because I researched a lot about this topic. When I came to Australia, I came like 4 years ago, not too far ago. And in India, I used to drive two-wheeler. But when I came over here, there is not a huge, like, two-wheelers, not a many number of two-wheelers on the roads. And I was like, oh, I have to start driving car. And it scares the hell out of me, because here, speeds are like 80 kilometers plus. So I was like, when I came across autonomous cars, I was like, yes, there is something which is coming for me, and yay, I don't need license anymore, and I'll be fine just going around in autonomous cars, or by driving, my husband driving car, and I'll be just roaming around. And that's exactly where I investigated more about autonomous cars, how they work, how safe they are for me, how these cars are going to roll out in the market, to how these cars are going to change our future. From that, I came to know a very interesting number. Every year, 1.3 million people die on the roads, which is like 3,000 people a day. That's a lot of people dying on the road. And out of which, 99% of the times, it is human error. And that's something which scares me, because I know that one mistake of my life can cost me my life or someone else's life. So there are few scenarios where I think autonomous cars will be really, really helpful. For example, as I said before, 99% of the times, accidents are caused because of human error. Now, we are human. Our brains get tired after driving for, say, 2 hours constantly. We need a break. You see a lot of boards on the highways that if you are tired, take a rest in rest area, or if you are using your phone while driving, please stop doing that, because that can cause accidents. These are some of the reasons why when human makes mistakes and when human gets distracted. Autonomous cars is, however, a software. It follows commands which we program as humans. It doesn't have distractions, and that's where I believe autonomous cars will be helpful for us to avoid this common human errors we make in driving. Along with that, how many times all of us get so annoyed seeing the traffic on the roads? In the following slides, I have some traffic scenarios, and I feel that whenever there is too much traffic on the roads, one of the major reasons are because people are in front of us are looking for, like, say, parking, or they are just on a phone and parked on the side or something like that. And this can be solved using autonomous cars. 95% of the times, our car sits ideally in the garage. For example, when we reach to work, we put it in the garage. We use it after we finish our work. At the same time, when we go to sleep, till the next morning, our car sits ideally, which is like 95% of the car's lifetime, it stays ideally, which is wastage of money. Did you know that $3 trillion are spent yearly in USA, where people like us buy cars, and they are sitting ideally for 95% of the times. That's really wastage of a lot of money. And that's where I believe is autonomous cars is going to bring huge difference in our lives. Most of you must be aware of Uber, and you must have used Uber. Uber rolled out algorithm with CSIL, which says that if we carpool, it will reduce our 98% of the traffic on the roads. For example, what they are doing is they are going to make autonomous cars, which will drive 4 people around in one ride, and at the same time, what it will do is it will reduce number of cars on the roads, which looks realistic, right? Because 4 people, right now, if you are driving to city, it might be just you or your partner or maybe your kid, depends. But most 90% of the times, humans, when they drive to their work, they are singles who are driving their cars to the work. And we are wasting 3 spaces, which will be occupied in this carpooling algorithm they have. At the same time, what is going to happen is, for example, in New York, by carpooling algorithm of Uber, they have claimed that they will reduce about 18,000 cars to 3,000 cars on the road with say, for about 3 minutes of waiting time for every person. So that means that every person will be able to get a car within 3 minutes and without any traffic, which is amazing and which I heavily look forward to. Okay, so 2 days back I came back from India trip, and this is the scenario in India. You see a lot of cars, two-wheelers, buses, trucks, like lot of animals as well on the road, like cows and goats, dogs, and that made me question that how will autonomous cars work on the countries like India or work on the countries where it is a developing country and there is too much crowd. And I think so there is a big question to solve for the companies who are progressing in that manner. Now, when we have the question, how does it work, how it is going to roll out on the roads, we need to understand what is the technology behind autonomous cars. And most of you must be aware of this car. This is Google's self-driving car, which is now with Waymo. On the top, where you see is the sensor, which is a LiDAR sensor. LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging. What LiDAR does, it sends signals to on the 360 degrees, and the amount of time that signal reflects back to the LiDAR system, it identifies the time, and based on that, it identifies the distance. So basically, each Google car has LiDAR system. Along with it, it has distance sensors, video cameras, which identifies objects, their heights, and everything. The positive about LiDAR system is it identifies exactly where exactly the distance of the LiDAR, the object is, what is the height of the object, and how big the object is. So that is the reason Google and Uber and Volvo, all the companies are going towards LiDAR system for autonomous driving. However, the LiDAR system is way too expensive, and that is the reason Tesla opted for some other technology. How Tesla works is Tesla goes for optical sensors as well as motion cameras around the 360 views of the car to identify. They are like around 12 cameras which identifies the distance and objects around the car. At the same time, the forward-facing radar system identifies the distance from the car. What radar system does is it just sends signals to the objects, and whenever it is reflected back, it identifies how much time it took, and based on that it calculates, which is quite similar to LiDAR, but little bit different. It doesn't identify the size and height of the object. That is the drawback of that is the drawback of Tesla cars at the moment. Tesla already has this system in place in all the Tesla S models, and all the Tesla cars which are going to come in future may not have autonomous functionality, but that's what Tesla is heading towards. However, there are multiple levels of autonomous driving, which goes from 0 to 5. 0 is no autonomy at all, to 5 is the completely autonomous cars. Tesla cars goes in the level of 3 to 4 autonomicity. However, Google cars are directly aiming towards completely autonomous cars. So you must be thinking that going autonomous means we are going to lose jobs, we are going to have a lot of financial troubles and things. And yes, in a way, you are correct. And let's talk about what it is going to change in our day-to-day lives and our jobs market. Because we are going to go autonomous, it is understood that we are going to lose jobs in the automobile industry. For example, taxi drivers, truck drivers, people who drive cars to travel around for food, like food distributors and other people who has basic, not too much education required jobs in this field. However, we will be losing jobs in this field, and that explains that there might every new technology grows and brings new jobs. Like for example, I'm a mobile developer, so I'll give you a mobile related example. When there were not many touchscreen mobile phones, there were not many requirements for iPhone or Android developers, right? That job was evaluated after Android and iPhones were launched. Same way, when autonomous cars will be launched, they will bring new jobs for us, but they will be a higher educated jobs, which is not currently what we will be losing, considering taxi drivers and all. They don't require too much education in that case. So we might have a lot of pressure to get educated, or our kids might have a lot of pressure to get educated, to get jobs and earn money. Because there is not going to be a human driving these cars, there are a lot of questions. Who will be responsible for this? Who will be responsible for accidents if they happen? Autonomous cars manufacturers or the company who is providing that service? We don't know that. And that's one of the big puzzle insurance companies are going to solve. Along with that, because we are going to reduce the number of cars on the roads, we may not require that much amount of insurances as well. And that's what I believe is going to change the insurance company's model. Yeah, transportation, as I said before, transportation-related jobs will be lost heavily. So right now, when you drive around on Saturdays and Sundays, you will see a lot of police on the roads because they are tracking whether anyone is drinking and driving, whether anyone is going around with out of the speed limits, etc. And that's what I believe will be not required for police to do once the autonomous cars comes into the market, because we won't require, no one will be drinking and driving. No one is driving the cars as well, right? So that's where I believe police and everyone will be transforming or investing their time into doing some more productive work, like identifying terrorism or identifying problems which are causing this problems of terrorism instead of worrying about who is drinking and driving. Now, everything is transforming into digital, and we all worry about our data security. Think about the scenario where our each and every movement is tracked on a centralized server, and our future movements are going to be tracked as well. That's pretty scary, and that might affect a lot of people's life. And that's where I believe data security is going to be a big question for us at that time. Autonomous cars will have a centralized location, like Google Maps right now has. Where you are heading, it knows. But if you don't have Google Maps turned on, you have that privacy. But at the same time, with autonomous cars, it's all going to be centralized, connected. And that's where I think so we will have a bigger problem to face for data security. However, with all these questions we have in our brains, what I feel is we humans love to take risks, but at the same time, we take calculated risk. We think about the pros and cons of all the softwares or all the technologies that are going to be launched in the market. But at the same time, we forget that people like you and me are physically fit. We don't need autonomous cars. We love driving. Maybe sometimes I don't, but most of us love driving. And at the same time, we don't realize that people who have disability, kids, who are always reliant on someone else to drive them around, old people, they will all be very, very benefited by this technology. They will be able to go around with 100% security that no one is going to cheat them or no one is going to take them to wrong path. And that's where I believe this technology is going to give strong impact on our society. Change is the law of life, and whether we believe it or not, this technology is going to come into the market. There are already Uber, Google cars on the roads which are autonomous and driving around. Google has already driven 300,000 miles, and out of which only one fatal accident they have faced. So these technologies are going to come no matter what, we accept it or not. So what my suggestion for you is have a read, have a think about this technology, and see what are your views about this technology, and form your ideas and publish it onto internet, because this may help people who are making this technology bit more to develop it more efficiently. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kruti. We've got a couple of questions that have come up during the session via Slido. The first one, asked anonymously, is Tesla Autonomous is already developed and ready for launch, but can't due to legal restrictions. When do you foresee this no longer being a problem in Australia?
Okay. Tesla, Elon Musk claimed that he will have autonomous cars on the roads within 2 years. However, I do feel that they will be autonomous, but along with the human assistance, because these technologies are ready. Like 99% human errors which we make are already solved by this technology, which is a huge achievement. But at the same time, there are some ethical scenarios, like, for example, if I'm driving on the road and I cannot avoid a situation where I have to either hit someone, but there are two people on the road. One is old person who has lived his whole life happily by far, and there is one younger kid who is supposed to live its life still, and who the car will pick. Such AI-related questions are not yet solved, and I believe that's where I think so there will be a big problem in Australia or any other countries. And especially Australia, we take risks. We take any technology, we adapt to any technology with too much risk assessment. And I don't think so it is going to be that easy to launch in Australia without this risk assessments.
Wonderful. Could you dig in a little deeper the issue with the Tesla accidents? Do you have
Yes.
more information to share there?
I have read about it, and even I read one document about from Tesla regarding that. So the issue that happened in that accident was the person who was sitting in the car. Tesla's autonomous cars right now are not completely autonomous, first of all. That needs human attention. And the person who was sitting in the car and driving that car was watching a movie while driving that car, and he had no focus on the car or on the road. Along with that, there was one truck which was turning right to go on the right lane of the road, and exactly that time the car didn't brake, and that's where the fatal accident happened and the person died. So that's one of the biggest accidents that was recorded by Tesla for that, while the car was in autonomous mode. If that answers.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's talk about some software questions before we get on to some more philosophical ones about the education of our children. Can software handle weather changes, wet, flooded roads, etc., snow, gravel, mud? Is it just for city use?
Interesting. I forgot to tell one point in the ultrasonic radar system Tesla is using. Like LiDAR doesn't detect these things like snow, dust, rain, all these things. In these things, LiDAR systems doesn't work well. However, the Tesla's ultrasonic radar system works perfectly well in that situations. And that's where I believe Tesla made a very smart move to go towards slowly driver assisted to the completely autonomous cars. So there are chances. Tesla is already identifying this weather situations, so I think so it is possible in this office.
Wonderful. What about risks with software bugs or problems, software crashes? Will software crashes equal a car crash? People may be nervous to relinquish control to a computer. Thoughts?
Yeah, so that's something, being a software engineer, I worry about as well, because ultimately the commands given to the software are made by humans, and we humans can make mistakes in programming as well, like we see bugs in softwares we make, mobile apps or anything. However, the amount of testing this technology is going through is amazing. So the major scenarios will be covered with the amount of testing we are going through, and they are playing with human lives. They are not going to just ignore the bugs. So I don't think so that is a question, because we are already driving autonomous in planes, and we trust that technology, right? So why not trust autonomous cars?
Okay. I don't think I'm ready to yet, to be honest, but anyway, I'm known as a Luddite. I've only just learned to use a microphone today. So we've got two questions here that are about data security. One is a scenario that has to do with data security. How long would it be before we can develop software or hardware to deal with data security? And what's the likelihood of a hacker driving my Tesla with his Xbox? Who's that person? You and I are friends, yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit too superficial in my mind, because that's not going to be possible. Any cars, autonomous cars, will drive based on the direction you have given with the A origin to B destination. It's not going to drive based on the commands you provide. It's going to drive based on the commands that are programmed in the software within the Tesla cars or any other cars. So I don't think so that is going to be a big question. The data security issue will come where the hackers will change your destination or something like that. I don't think so. There will be more of issue in driving the car with Xbox, I believe. But that's my view.
Okay, let's get on to something that's not so much about the technology itself, but perhaps the ongoing effects on society. Do you think there really is any point in teaching our kids how to drive? If I could get out of it, that would be great. So if you could give me the go-ahead, it's going to save me a whole bunch of RSCV fees,
yes,
that's for sure.
I think so. It's still needed to tell them to, make them learn driving, because I do see autonomous cars on the roads within 4 years, but it's not going to be completely autonomous until coming 10 years or 15 years, because the future autonomous cars makers are seeing is completely autonomous cars on the roads. There is no human input required by us to the cars, and that's not an easy change. Rolling out all the cars that are existing in the market, rolling out making people understand autonomous cars, making them trust autonomous cars is going to take a while, even though software is ready for it.
Okay, I've got one final question before we wrap up today, and that is there a need to update road infrastructure, smart roads, traffic lights, etc., so that a car can't talk to the roads, can talk to the roads?
I'll give you an example. When I went to India recently, I went after like 4 years, and that was a big eye-opener for me in a way that there is no human or no person following road rules at all in India. Yes, it's fact. Even though there is a red light, people are just going forward and not worrying about it. And I literally felt that in India, when you are driving, it's like a game. Everyone is firing from all the angles, and you are just going on your pace and saving yourself from all of these vehicles and reaching to the destination. So countries like that will require a strong enforcement of the driving laws, or they will have to introduce driving laws. But at the same time, countries like Australia, I don't think so there will be a lot of requirement, because cars that are driving right now on the roads, autonomous cars that are on the roads right now, they understand boards, they understand road signals, they understand traffic lights, they understand the walkway, everything. So I don't think so we will be changing a lot considering infrastructure. However, I do believe we will require smart roads and lot of law and different sort of law enforcements on this field.
Okay, we've got one last question from the audience, and then we'll be wrapping up.
I'm not sure if it's a question or comment, but what will happen to government revenue if they're not giving us all these speeding tickets and red light traffics? So what percentage of income is going to go down from all the government, people who are collecting all those fees?
True.
They're very innovative when it comes to making money, so I'm sure they'll come up with something.
Again, I had a thought about this thing, and I even thought that we will not require driver's license at all as well. So that whole system will go in the trash bin as well. So what I think will happen is companies like Uber, Google, and all will have their cars as a service providers, and government will be handling to give the licenses to these service providers, and they will be driving their cars based on this. So that's what I came up with the solution, that maybe something like this will happen, but who knows.